This is Q.I.Q, the question in question. Brought to you by TherapyBites Art Lab. Here to take a bite out of modern-day pseudo-psychological psycho-malarkey. Now entering the Art Lab studio, today's T-Ballers, a collection of fellow strugglers, confronting personal challenges, navigating precarious relationships, and tackling trauma. Humans like each of us, juggling difficult human emotions, each here with unique life experiences, lived stories, and questions we'll bite into that just might help you too. And now, entering the Art Lab studio for the 9,880th time is the host of Therapy Bites Q.i.Q, Doc Heath.
Oh, always got to check my mute button. Sometimes that's off. Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you joining us. We are streaming live through YouTube. I've turned my gain down because people tell me that I echo if I have my gain turned up too loud. But the gain on my mic comes in handy outside. There's lots of goings on out here in the countryside of the great state of Arkansas. But thank you guys for joining us. And yes, I'm running a little bit late. My puppy dog, Scruffy, couldn't make his mind up whether he wanted to go outside or not. And he's very finicky. He'll stand and he'll look and he'll look. And then he'll decide if he wants to go outside or not. And it's my job as the dog dad to sit there and wait on him. And you dog owners, you know that. As I often say, Scruffy doesn't have an owner. He has a servant, and that's yours truly. Well, hope everybody's doing okay. We're going to dig into some psychology, and some of you have asked, well, where do you get those questions? Okay, where do we get the questions? We get the questions from people that send us in a postcard saying, I have a question. We also get questions from people that send us a text message at 1-870-686-4196, and no worries, that number's coming up later. You can check it out also. And let's see, where else? On our social media, we have folks that post questions. But during the show, we post the answer, and it's up to you guys to guess what the question is. And, of course, our categories are Couch Crumbs Quotes, also Couch Crumbs Questions. We do a little bit of both. Creature Feature, that's some psychological concepts we think are important for people to understand. Social Media Smackdown, where we take on some Kool-Aid drinking nonsense from social media, fresh from the therapy couch, real life stories. And Couch Crumbs, that's our newsletter. Neuro, finally, is the category all about the mechanics of your brain. And as I say, I'm your resident host, brain mechanic. The first item is going to come from Creature Feature. No, I'm sorry. I misread that. My bad. It's going to come from Couch Crumbs Quotes. And I'll put the answer up on the board there and see if you can come up with the question. And thank you guys joining us from LinkedIn, from, whatever platform. We stream through LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And there's your question. I'll go over here to the board and pop it up on the board. And if you're not watching live, that's okay. We only give away the side coins for live viewers. And if you are a live viewer and you put in the correct response in the form of a question, you can win coins to redeem at the TherapyBites store. But if you just want to watch for fun and learn some cool psychological concepts to embiggen your life, as we say, we're glad that you're here doing that, even if you're doing it after we aired the show. The quote is attributed to one of my favorite ancient Greek philosophers, Socrates, who emphasized the importance of self-reflection. That the answers the question is in the answer. Actually, in this case, the importance of self-reflection and introspection for a meaningful existence, and we don't have any respondents just yet. The question is, who said the unexamined life is not worth living? And that brings to mind one of my favorite Socrates stories, where he's on his way to a dinner party, and people are expecting him to show up, and they look around and they say, hey, where's Socrates? And they run around finding him, and he has actually walked up onto a neighbor's porch because why? He said he had a thought to think. I did that this afternoon on the way home from the dentist. See, my nice, shiny, clean teeth, I do that twice a year whether I need it or not, and you should too. There's a correlation between cognitive decline and dental hygiene. Believe it or not, you can look it up. But I pulled to the side of the road because I had a thought to think, and I wanted to put it down in my notes so that I could use it in a Twitter post. And I encourage you guys, think more about your thinking. Examine your life. Let's go back to the board. We'll pick the next item on the board, and it comes from, I got ahead of myself a while ago, from Creature Feature, and I will post the answer, of course, and it's your job to come up with the proper question, and we'll be right back after this. Is all.
You are a fellow human struggling with difficult emotions, a fracturing relationship, parenting problem, mental health difficulty, have a psychotherapy from hell story to tell, or a challenging life experience question, and would like to share your story by stepping up to bat as a T-baller. Either register by texting Q.i.Q to 1-870-686-4196 and join our Therapy Bites community, or send a postcard with your name, address, phone number, email address, and age to the address on the screen. Therapy Bites, Q.i.Q, P.O. Box 1391, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72403-1391.
And as one of our viewers asked me, or reminded me to remind you, that number only works in the States. I've had folks try that in other countries. My apologies. I don't own the platform. We just kind of rent the number. But if you're in the U.S., anywhere you can text with a U.S. number, you can send us a text to that number. This cognitive distortion involves focusing on a single negative detail or aspect of a situation, ignoring the other positive or neutral elements, and it's kind of like seeing through a pair of darkly tinted sunglasses. So it is ignoring other important aspects of the situation. And what's that called? Just for fun, if I can copy the whole thing, I will put it up here on the board so you can enjoy it in all its splendor. It's called the underthinking. You hear about overthinking. I've never found somebody that does that. This is actually underthinking. And what is underthinking? Underthinking is failing to consider all the other important aspects of the situation. Let's go back to the board, and our next item is going to come from, look at that, one of my favorites, Social Media Smackdown, and it is for 400 Psycoins, which you can redeem for cool merchandise and things like that. I will go ahead and put the answer in the chat so that I can pull it up on the board and take your best stab at it. This cognitive distortion is a type of overgeneralization where one applies a simplistic term to describe complex human behavior, identity, and it really reduces a person to a single, usually negative characteristic. And you'll see it all over social media, and I don't want to give it away, but give that a thought. Think about that, and we'll be right back after this.
If you plan on being in the local area of your podcast player app and would like complimentary tickets to the Therapy Bites Q.i.Q Art Lab studio audience, please search Therapy Bites on your device and just smash that subscribe button. Your complimentary ticket grants you access to alerts so you'll never miss a show.
Oh, and look at that. That's our T-ball triple of the day. And once again, it is a type of a cognitive distortion that you can encapsulate an entire human being into what is labeling. What is labeling? Clinicians do that by diagnosing too quickly or over-diagnosing. We humans think that we're safer if we can just put everybody in a box. And I want to encourage you guys today, whether you're watching live or watching a replay, avoid putting people in boxes. People are far too complex to be captured in a single label. Take time and get to know the whole person. What is labeling? I think it's at the root of bias. It's at the root of prejudice. You know, calling people a toxic, or calling them a gaslighter, or calling them by their diagnosis. There's a great book out there called The Center Cannot Hold, where the author, who actually does suffer from schizophrenia, said that was the worst thing about developing the condition of schizophrenia, is that she went from being a person to being this thing, this label called a schizophrenic. But don't do that. People don't become their diagnoses. Let's go back to the board and put another item there. And this is going to come from, fresh from the therapy couch. And if I can let my fingers do the walking, I will put it right up there on the board in a moment so we can all read it. And 60 seconds on the timer, and I'll pull that over. This psychological concept refers to the belief that outside forces or other individuals have significant influence over my life circumstances, and this can potentially lead to, as they say, feelings of helplessness, but we know that's not a feeling. Helplessness is a belief. Reduced self-efficacy, and vulnerability to manipulation, which we have a whole show that we talk about manipulation and vulnerability. But what is that talking about? We have 20 seconds on the clock. The belief that others control my thinking, others control my success, the weather controls my success, different people groups control my success. And let's see, we have 7 seconds counting down and no proper answers yet. This is a cool concept that we'd all do well to understand. And we're out of time, so I'll put it up there. It's what is external locus of control? Take your power back. Develop some internal locus of control. You'll be so much better off for it. And we're going to wrap up the show with something from one more category, and this is going to come from Neuro, which is also called Psych Secrets, and it is for 800 Psy coins. I'll put it in the chat. We'll take a quick break and see what answers and new knowledge, speaking of neuroscience, new knowledge, we come up with. We'll be right back.
Premier accommodations for our T-Ball contributors provided electronically by the luxurious Art Lab Studio, overlooking the steaming cesspool of pseudo-psychological social media psychomalarkey, and located in cyberspace on your favorite podcast hosting platform, where we invite you to the most psychomalogically thrilling podcast in town, while you feast on our award-winning Psychologically Nutritious buffet of TherapyBites cuisine, conscientiously cooked up by your hard-working T-Ball team chefs.
Okay, and we're back for our final item of the evening. It's a long one, but it's a very simple concept. It's the neuroscience concept that encapsulated in the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together. As you might have heard it, what fires together, wires together. Be really careful with the associations that you create in your brain. I often talk about confusing what we think with what we feel, because that's an association where if you do that association often enough, for instance, if you say, I feel worthless. Well, worthless is not a feeling. You do have a feeling. It's probably disgust, which is shame pointed inward, by the way, or irritation. But if you pair the belief that you're worthless with a feeling like disgust, every time you feel disgust, you'll think that you're worthless. And that, since you don't have any answers up on the board, is called, the proper question is, what is the Hebbian theory? The Hebbian theory. Hebb was a neuroscientist famous from Canada. I think, what was the name? I lose the name of the Cadillac Center they worked at. The Douglas is there. But a big center in neuroscience, a lot of cool neuroscience things comes out of Canada. But Donald Hebb came up with this, what fires together, wires together. The brain loves to make associations. For instance, when you look at someone you love, be very careful of associating disgust with their behavior. You may have disgust because of a behavior, but if you pair that together often enough, disgust for their behavior, then it brings them into the picture, and all of a sudden you're disgusted at them. And there's actually a certain part of your brain that does that, largely located above the left ear, above the right ear, in an area called the insular cortex. Thank you guys for joining us. We will be back next Tuesday at 7 o'clock and Thursday at 7 o'clock, but you don't have to wait until then. I have a wonderful interview slate lined up for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central. That's U.S., Memphis, Chicago time. And we'll have another at 11 a.m. Central. All you need to do is subscribe to or follow for free, no charge, our YouTube channel. You'll get all those alerts about what we have coming up. Thank you for being here. We'll catch you guys next time, whether you're here live or in the replay. Come back and join us.
Next time on Therapy Bites Art Lab Q.i.Q, Doc Keith and T-Ball callers face off against steaming piles of pseudo-psychological psycho-malarkey directly from your favorite social media platforms, or perhaps from the psychotherapy couch of a pill-pushing, emotion-demonizing, bobble-headed, woo-woo clinician who fed their kooky Kool-Aid to you. This is Art Potto speaking. Therapy Bites Q.i.Q is a Dr. I'm a Freudnot production. Distributed by the Therapy Bites Art Lab Podcast.